am a former columnist from CoinDesk and now doing my own newsletter. I'm also the author of a book called Bitcoin is Magic, which, despite the title, does have stuff about NFTs in it. I am going to have Andrea and Straith just go ahead and introduce themselves. And since we're only three here, go ahead and just give a little description of what you're working on, and then we'll go from there into the conversation.
Sure. Hi, I'm Straith. I'm the chief creative for Candy Digital. We work with large brands, entertainment studios, sports teams to really build and develop immersive Web3 experiences. In a lot of ways, we believe that fans and fan communities are the creators of tomorrow, and everything that we do is about resourcing, empowering these communities to own, steward, and shepherd the stories that they're passionate about. So that's what we've been building at Candy over the course of the past 2 years, and can definitely share a lot about how we see the NFT markets evolving, and certainly how these projects have embraced and begun with NFTs and built really like rich worlds around them. And luckily enough, I get to work with Andrea on the Palm Network.
Yeah, thank you. So Candy is one of the main drivers of volume in the Palm Network. I'm Andrea Lerdo. I'm the executive director of the Palm Foundation. And together with Straith, we also, try to foster a network that is focused on NFTs and culture, not only for creators, but also for brands and their fans. And the project right now that we're focused on from the foundation side is the Palm Collective, which is the first DAO as a service tool that enables anyone to create a sub-DAO with a click-through, and then decide if they want to give membership in an open or closed way or a gated way, and then try and reach out to the community and build their communities in different ways using blockchain and the DAO structure for transparency, efficiency, and to give their communities a new way of expressing a voice.
Nice. And we're going to definitely get into some of the more sort of technical innovation side of things, but I'm actually going to flip what I gave you guys ahead of time. I'm feeling a little bit inspired because we are in a unique moment right now, or not unique moment, it's a moment that has happened about 5 times where everything went to zero and now it's coming back. And NFTs in particular, I think, had, at least this last time around, a very steep peak to trough. And so I wanted to talk about that first, actually. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what it has been to go through that.
Sure.
But then more generally, I'm curious what it means for NFT development, the ecosystem, and just being able to put the energy into building these things when there's these huge swings that maybe are even a little bit more steep in NFTs than in the rest of crypto.
Yeah, I guess.
And make sure you're both getting kind of right up on the mic as much as you can.
Is that good?
That's good.
Okay. I think that, of course, the cyclical nature of NFTs is a challenge for us. It's certainly a challenge for large and established IP who are entering the space for the first time. Everything that those partners that we work with that are encountering outside of the NFT space, I would say, is equally challenging right now. If you're a brand, if you are a publisher right now, you are going through a transformational cycle. It's not just NFTs. And so I think when I think about what we've experienced over the course of the past 3 years now building this platform with partners like Warner Brothers Discovery, is that, again, everything that we've started with has originated in the blockchain, in an NFT project. But that's not the end of the platform. That's only the start point. Our North Star is about building a way for fans to own their story and own their identity in a superhero ecosystem for DC. And that's something that's never been done before. So to a certain extent, we want to watch the cycles. We've now, I think, completed by the end of March, we will have completed 90 drops on the DC NFT platform. So we're learning a lot about collector mechanics, but what we're also critically learning about is the way in which fans are engaging with NFTs, and what's happening right now is far deeper than just a collector behavior. What we're seeing by introducing utilities to these NFTs, like governance, like voting, the ability to vote to create and drive comics for the ability to vote to see the storyline that you want in a comic or the title that you want in a comic. What we're seeing is this new collaborative, creative network emerging, and people are spending hundreds of thousands of hours doing this. People are spending hundreds of thousands of hours on votes, on ARGs, on in-world experiences, and that to us has been like a really profound learning that allows us to, again, be really clear-eyed about this mission and this vision about owning your story in a superhero ecosystem, because the behavior that we're seeing is that people want to play in the story world that they're creating. They don't just see these as assets they want to hold on to. They want to engage with them in a richer way.
Andrea, what about Palm sort of weathering the turbulence and now capitalizing on the resurgence, I hope?
Yeah, well, I absolutely agree. Is that okay?
That's great.
Can you hear me? Okay. I absolutely agree with Straith. And for us at Palm, we want to focus on what's beyond the speculative nature of blockchain, crypto and NFTs. What's the utility behind it? No, beyond the PFP, which is amazing that this is the topic that we get to speak on, because I love it. Because I think the PFP is just like the email of the internet. It's just the one thing that started it. But the utility that you can have in an NFT is boundless. It's whatever you want to put in it, you can put in it. Whatever you want it to be, it can be. It can hold identity. It can hold, certificates. It can be the new way forward for us to have a more transparent, secure way. And to Straith's point, what we're trying to do with this DAO, it's a DAO as a service. We have 4 toolkits. One is the Palm ID. And this is an account abstraction so that you can create your Palm ID, validate it against social identifiers, and prove that you're a human and you're in a secure network. So NFTs and IDs are also going to be something that will drive us forward. And as Straith was saying, as people are now understanding more how a DAO works and how you can have a voice in a governance system, especially as we're moving forward with brands, the brands that understand that we are in an influence economy and the consumers now want to have a decision and a voice on what we design, what we consume, and what we buy, the shift from a consumer feedback that today happens in an email or on a form to a DAO structure that gives very transparent ways for the brand to engage to the community and then interact and implement what the community actually wants to see out of the brand is something really novel. But it's been there for a while. Like generations 15 and younger are already expecting this to happen. And so we are building the tools for brands and artists to communicate to their communities and hopefully have that more horizontal relationship.
So I want to sort of transition to talk about this novel stuff, which we've already gotten a little bit of, but I kind of have a hard question for you, Straith, which is, you're working with DC, and DC is actually sort of notorious for having had one of the most famous fan interaction storytelling events of all time in the early 90s when fans voted to kill a Robin who they didn't like.
Yes.
So the question for you is, describe what is it about this technology or these platforms that makes this different from tearing out a little slip from the back of a comic book and mailing it in 1992.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they're having the precedent for fan voting, I think, is big. I think that actually is a part of the legacy that we want to hold on to. Not that it never needs to be as visceral as physical as tearing something out, but the idea that you could have a voice and that being encoded into comics for 30 years, I think is, again, a piece of DC history that we want to recognize. What makes this different is that the first comic that has been created and in some ways creative directed by fans through their votes. Again, these choices are votes that are established by DC writers and artists like Dan Abnett and Pablo M. Collar. These fans are creating a comic together. Now it is a 3-series comic called Batman: The Legacy Cowl. That's the very first comic that's been released. That's the very first DC comic that's been released on the blockchain. So the very first creative commitment from DC on the blockchain was something that was created for fans. And to me, that's really profound in terms of what that partner thinks about this technology, that the first thing and their sort of conception of the future is that it will be developed in collaboration with fans. So like there's something beautiful to me in seeing that 90s experiment come to life in a new way, but also in a richer way. The voting program that we have, that we've worked on with DC and with fans has now spanned 57 votes, and it's resulted not just in 3 comic books, but in the introduction of a new DC supervillain for the first time. This is the first time that fans have been able to create canon with DC, and to me that's a watershed moment. The idea that a major comic publisher, a major studio, can create a governance track that allows fans to participate and to meaningfully create with them and within the systems, the IP systems that they've already established. So it's a continuation of that legacy. I think in some ways it's an homage to it, it's a recognition of it, but we want to continue to expand it and look at ways where we can take advantage of token ownership to unlock new opportunities for people to contribute to and create with large IP.
And of course, the ability to do 57, you said, votes, is a lot different than doing one about one fork in the story.
Right.
So whether it's, we're talking about narrative here, but whether it's, governance, identity, what have you, and Palm is also largely focused on kind of creators. So what are other kind of novel interactions that maybe we're not even seeing in production yet that are possible?
So we actually just went to Mexico City for the first time, for the second time to Sonamaco. Sonamaco is the largest Latin America, actually now the largest art fair in the world. It had 81,000 visitors this year. And what we did, we used the DAO tool to do a call for digital art globally. We received 87 submissions. And then we had curators curate from those submissions, and 10 of those were displayed within Sonamaco. So it was the first instance that a creator that is not represented by a fancy gallery, that then was curated by a fancy fair, could show in Sonamaco. And then in addition, we had the community vote for their favorite, which we also added as part of the display. So we are also now, democratizing art and technology in a way where the community becomes also a curator of art. We're giving them the chance to see who they want to see in these spaces. And we were lucky enough to have a fair that's, close to innovation and understands this importance. But for us, it was amazing to see 8 of the 10 artists that were selected lived or flew to Mexico City. And it was amazing to see the reactions of, we had a display of 3 meters by 2 meters, only digital display, and people would come by and they're like, what is this? I'm like, this is fine art. It is digital, and it's even better than the other booths, because instead of you having to put it physically in one space and choose that space and leave it there, you can take it with you and display it in every screen that you go to. And so people were really amazed and engaging about this paradigm shift of understanding and finding digital art in spaces where they are not used to seeing it. So for us, this like shift or this push into the traditional art space and how we're bridging these two worlds was just an amazing success.
And I think that invites a really fundamental question about, again, I'm trying to bend this towards the market a little bit in interesting ways, hopefully, but this idea of digital ownership itself is still novel and obviously a little bit difficult for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. And specifically, I think, in the art world, we obviously saw some blowback in 2020, and that landscape has changed. But comic people are also big collectors. They're about like ownership. So I guess the general question is like, how is the perception of the idea of, how is the idea of digital ownership landing with people now, maybe even versus 4 years ago?
Yeah, well, at least in this experience in Sonamaco in a fair, people were absolutely stunned by the fact that they could buy the piece by scanning the QR code, and that the money would go directly to the artist instead of the gallery and then the fair and then whomever. And so it's just a process. What's the hardest piece of it all is onboarding someone. Getting that custodial wallet into a phone or into a computer, I think is still the hardest moment. But once someone has that step done, then the process of, understanding why you're owning something, why it's, I think we really need to stop calling MetaMask or wallets and just call them universal passwords or universal keys to interact with the blockchain, because it's not for crypto, it's for everything that you want to own and display as in your possession or tied to you. So the term wallet kind of also gives people that feel of it has to be money, it has to be crypto. And so also explaining that a little bit deeper then gave people the understanding like, oh, it's actually like a universal box, for anything that I want to display on a blockchain.
And I think that I'm interested in the comics question in particular, because comics has actually transitioned to digital in a certain way, much more so than the art world, but I don't know if people are seeing the differentiation between just like your Comixology subscription and blockchain stuff.
There's still work to be done there, absolutely. I think that our thesis around that is that the shortest distance between an idea and a community is a story. So embedding any experience that feels foreign in a story that users can understand and direct and also own. So the idea of, again, maybe it feels abstract to own something digitally for comic collectors. So showing the value of that through the reader or through a utility like voting or through an experience like having access to a comic signing with Jim Lee or through an experience like an alternate reality game. But I think our approach to onboard folks is to do it through storytelling and do it through the stories that matter to them the most.
So we only have a few minutes left, but I will ask you both to do something very difficult, which is talk about interesting things that you're not personally working on. So what are the sort of new themes or ideas or technologies that maybe are a little bit more distant from your own projects that you're still interested in and that are catching your eye?
I'm very interested in the boring aspect of the NFTs.
I'm sorry?
In the boring aspect of the NFTs.
The boring aspect.
Yeah, like for us, blockchain and NFTs and everything, it's about hype and art and all of these things, and we're running around after them. But for me, like the identity piece, the certification piece, and the provenance piece of blockchain is one of the things that interests me the most. And the other is people working in order to build bridges for interconnectivity between chains. Because for me, that's one of the hardest things to achieve and also one of the most important. Because if people are collecting in Palm, they should be able to take whatever they're collecting and move it wherever they want to go. Because maybe this is going to be building here, but Marvel is going to be building somewhere else. And how do you interconnect these things? So.
Yeah, big one for all crypto projects.
Yeah, for me, I think that there's like really nothing more powerful than seeing yourself like represented in an artwork or in culture or written into a body of work. And I think like over the course of the past 2 years, what has really moved me and really inspired me is around sort of the generative art movement and the ability to collect something that looks like you, feels like you, exists like just for you. That idea of generative art, generative production, I feel like is a really powerful, not just genre, but really mode and theme of creation that I think will unfold in really significant ways over the course of the next decade, and certainly in ways that I think have encouraged more creators and welcomed more creators into the fold, but also allowed more collectors to maybe be seen in our works for the first time.
Very nice. Well, we don't have much time left, but we have time for maybe one more comment from each of you, just about whatever. I don't know. I don't have a question.
Well, actually, I just want to say thank you to Straight and you. I'm really happy to be in a panel with you. This was not planned, but we're both working in Palm and very excited about the work that we're doing. And thank you, everyone that showed up to listen to us speak.
Yeah, awesome. I would echo that. Like, grateful to be here with you all. Grateful to the audience here for the generosity of your time, and really, really excited about how we can continue to use this technology to empower communities to own their story. So, thank you.
Yeah. Well, Straith from Candy and Andrea from Palm, thank you so much. And we will, I think, be around for a couple minutes. If anybody wants to say hi, please do so. And thanks everybody for being here at ETHDenver and for seeing the panel.